This is the plaintiff, Robert Gallant. He says he's a Vietnam veteran who was hired by the American Legion Post 207 and the defendant to provide landscaping and snow removal. He's owed for past due invoices for work he provided. She refuses to make good and pay him for his services, so he's suing her here and now for the $4,258.22 he's owed. This is the defendant, Diane Callion, manager of American Legion Post 207. She says the plaintiff used to be the commander of Post 207, and he hired himself and his landscaping company to do the work around the Legion. So he was paying himself out of the post's money, and they were $85,000 in debt when she got there. Now the plaintiff's trying to get her to pay on invoices from 10 years ago? Nice try. She's accused of insubordination.
All parties, please use your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case in the docket. The plaintiff is a Vietnam vet who did some landscaping for the American Legion, says he got stiffed. But the defendant says the invoices are 10 years old. And besides, when he ran the American Legion Post, he fleeced them. It's the case of I'm no longer at ease.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Mr. Gallant.
Yes.
And Old Barn Property Services, you are suing your American Legion Post 207. You're still a member, right?
Yes.
Represented here by Diane Gallion. You're the manager?
Yes, Your Honor.
For bills that you say have been outstanding for a decade. Tell me what's going on.
When I initially started working for the American Legion, I don't have the exact date, but it was like 10 years ago.
It had to be more than that because there's things you testified to in your complaint. So when did who hired you to do the landscaping and the snow?
The board of directors and the commander.
Okay, you ended up being commander, right?
I was a commander in the year 2010.
So after that, after you were hired, you became commander, not before?
Yes.
Okay, all right, and then how long were you doing the landscaping and the snow?
For 10 years. That's what I was referring to.
Okay. And at some point, according to you, they started to get behind on payments to you?
Yes.
And when was it that started happening?
2005, 2006.
Okay. And how far behind did they get?
At one point, I think it was like $12,000, but they were making big payments to get caught up.
Okay.
We agreed to that on several different occasions. They'd make a $1,000 payment, make an $800 payment, and they did this regularly.
So you kept doing the work every month anyway?
I kept doing the work until the end of January 2011.
Okay.
They told me, they wrote me a letter and said that they had a kid that was going to do the lawn for free.
Okay, and someone else would take care of the snow? They just told you stop?
They just told me to stop.
Did you receive any payments from them after, when was the last time you received a payment from them?
The last time I received a payment was May of 2012.
And what's happened since May of 2012?
Personally, I have constantly been over there to the different commanders trying to get them to pay these bills. They have copies of the bills. Recently, they've been telling me they don't have copies of the bills. They've been provided copies of the bills at least 3 different times. Recently, they told my attorney that they don't go by that format.
What does that mean? They don't go by that
format? I really
format?
don't know. A bill to me is a bill. Companies, all different companies use different statements and billing procedures. They send a bill, they send a statement.
All right, let me hear your response.
Sure. I had talked to Mr. Gallant's attorney back in 2016. I received a letter in September, and then I had a conversation with him in October. And
How long have you been, let me back up a second,
Sure.
I'm sorry.
That's
How
okay.
long have you been manager?
I've been manager since 2014.
When you took over in 2014, what was the debt of this place?
About $85,000.
What's its debt now?
About 15.
Okay. Since you've been manager, has this issue reared its head?
I didn't hear anything until 2016.
Okay.
Hadn't heard from Mr. Gallant. I have never seen him until him and his attorney walked into the building and started making frequent visits. They threatened to take us to court. And I asked him politely, I said, along with those invoices, because anyone can print an invoice off a computer, I would like the work orders that correspond with those invoices.
Okay. what's your theory on this?
So first, I would like to go backtrack 1 second. Mr. Gallant says he was the commander. I also provided you proof back in 2002. Mr. Gallant was signing paperwork saying that he had some kind of command there. His wife, ex-wife, current wife, I don't know who she is, Patricia Gallant, was actually working there since 1999.
Okay.
So they know the ins and outs of the American Legion, how the money comes in, how the money goes out. It's a cash business. You have to keep really good records. Otherwise, money can disappear and nobody can track it or trace it.
So what happens with the attorney and they're in your office and they're saying what? What's going to happen?
So they're saying they want to take us to court. And I said, well, because I can't find any previous invoices or any work orders that correspond with the invoices that he wants to give me, I asked him to produce those because I know that they're part of his billing process.
Well, maybe not, though. You know how this is.
Yeah,
I mean,
I do.
You know.
So I asked him if he could provide them because he took a good chunk of that money within the 1 year of his last command as commander, and he paid himself out. And all I asked was to show me where the debt was.
What was the last thing you just said? What do you mean?
He actually, during his last year of command, paid himself almost $12,000. We were...
In what? In the fees for landscaping and snow?
Correct. The Legion was racking debts that through the vendors and through the back taxes that they opted not to pay. Instead, he took the pay himself to pay his own self and his company before he would pay that money.
Okay, the plaintiff waited 10 years to file this lawsuit to get the landscaping money. Too long?
Yeah, I think 10 years is way too long.
What's the 10 years? I mean, he still has a bill that hasn't been paid.
It's too long. I mean, you can't be expecting me to pay something from 10 years ago.
Why?
Because it wasn't important, obviously, to you. So now all of a sudden you want to collect on my dollar? No.
I think that's too long. I think that he waited too long, and it's just not fair to just show up 10 years later and want something.
Fair enough. Go inside the courtroom.
Somebody can do that without the board approval? Like, how can that possibly be? He can't be, I mean, in other words, what you're insinuating is that was cagey, but is he sitting in a secret closet writing himself checks, or does the board know what payments they're making out of their checking account?
The board may have not known. The board should have approved any checks that were written for payments like this.
Yeah, there should be like an amount that's, and they should be reviewing the records every X amount of time.
Correct.
So are you set up like that now?
Yes, we are, ma'am.
Okay, and in any event, if he's in fact doing the work and he's owed the money, big deal on everything that you're saying. Now, what I'd like to try to understand is, in your discussions that you have with them, and you had an attorney over there, did the topic ever come up that 7 years have passed?
Sorry.
From my point, the topic came up that we've been trying to have them pay these bills for years.
And what were you going to say?
I spoke to his attorney, and I said it's been an awful long time since he last requested this, and they wanted to take us to court. And I said, I believe that there's a statute of limitations on that. And he said, not if he files. He was going to file anyways.
Except for when was that?
That was back in 2018.
Yeah, that should have happened.
Yeah, and then they did.
Because you filed in 2019, and 7 years have passed.
Yes, and then he actually did go to court. And I gave you a copy. I did not know about it. I don't know why I didn't receive the paper. His attorney said he personally dropped off the paperwork to the Legion, but I did not receive it. There was a court order for a judgment. However, Mr. Gallant's attorney and Mr. Gallant failed to execute that, so the court dismissed it.
I don't understand what you just said. What is it that happened in court? Let me hear your version.
I've never been to court on anything she's referring to.
Did you ever file a lawsuit in this case?
No, I haven't filed anything.
Okay,
I've had two
let me see what
attorneys.
you're talking about.
This is the paperwork that his attorney gave me.
This was in 2016. He filed. You didn't know that he filed?
No.
Then you didn't show there was a default entered, and then nobody did anything about the default. And then the judge dismissed it because you didn't act on the default. And apparently in your state, there's some requirement that you do something on the default. Did you have a parting of ways with your lawyer or something? Did the lawyer want money and you didn't pay it? What happened there?
No, I lost contact with him for a few months, but there was never any question about money.
So in October of 2018, on the above action for failure to act on a default, it is hereby ordered and adjudged by the court that the judgment is hereby entered directly by the clerk magistrate in accordance with Massachusetts rules of civil procedure, and that this action be dismissed and the plaintiff named above take nothing. So this is as though it never happened. And the next time you file is now beyond the statute of limitations. We have something called statute of limitations, and that means that you have X amount of time to file a lawsuit. Why? Because it's considered unfair to the other side to let year after year after year pass. If I come and I sue you about something that happened 20 years ago, you don't even remember who was there, who your witnesses should be. So there's a limit. Some limits are 2, some limits are 4, some limits are 6. For you in your state on a debt, your limit is 6. You have filed today's case in year 7. And you're banned by the statute of limitations from collecting because you waited too long. You don't even know about this other lawsuit. And they're potentially, that's why I asked for all the paperwork, because potentially this was within the statute of limitations. But the problem is that it's as though this lawsuit would have told the statute of limitations, would have stopped the clock. But it's as though this lawsuit didn't happen because the judge ended up dismissing that judgment. And your obligation at that point was to file again sometime before 3 years later, because 3 years have passed. My verdict in this case is for the defendants.
Well, I think this may be a surprise to the plaintiff, but the statute of limitations has passed, and you can't win this case.
Surprise.
You didn't know that he had filed that case?
No.
Knew nothing about, boy, oh boy.
Sounds like I need to talk to my attorney.
Yeah. So it sounds like you are never going to get this money. It's gone.
That's what it sounds like.
Kiss it goodbye. Thank you for your service, anyway. Okay, I appreciate it very much. Thank you. All right, Ms. Gallion, I think you just provided something that shocked him. He didn't. Did you know about it? You didn't know that much either, did you?
I did not until his attorney dropped the paperwork off. And I would think if his attorney had the paperwork, Mr. Gallant had a copy as well.
Yeah, boy, I would think so too. Very interesting. Well, congratulations. I
Thank
guess
you.
this is going to end this once and for all.
That would be nice. We're going to start fresh, and we're trying to move forward and keep our head above water and do
get
what's
out
right.
of debt.
Get
Yeah,
out of debt
good
and
for
do
you.
what's right for our veterans.
Okay, good enough. Thank you for your service, sir.
Thank you very
nice to have you here. Okay,
you.
there. Go ahead. All right, thank you. Harvey?
I mean, look, Doug, the point, they're all right here. I mean, the point of the statute of limitations is that you need to know when you can move on with your life financially, that you're not going to owe money. And that's why they have a statute of limitations. 10 years is too long. If that money was owed, the person who owed it has done other things with the money, and it was reasonable for them to do that.